पहुँचे हम मधुबन तो देखा अनोखा चमन। पहुँचे हम मधुबन तो देखा अनोखा चमन, जिसमें खुशबू रूहानी थी प्यारी। देखा माली अपने गुलशन में, ओ एक बाबा मिले मधुबन में। शिव बाबा मिले उनके तन में, एक बाबा मिले मधुबन में। शिव बाबा मिले उनके तन में।
Om Shanti once again. Just a few things. I think we have some brothers and sisters joining us online. So if those who are already there listening, we welcome you. Just want to give you a short brief up of the last session. We had journaling, and Gopi Ben had guided us through some of the questions that are in the journal, and we had pair work, which really helped us to experience many things. And now there will be an experiential session. I think last one was also experiential, but this will be deeper, and it's called Brahma Baba's Inner Dance. So I think we'll be really feeling all those things that Brahma Baba was feeling, and Gopi Ben will take us through that journey. And after the session is over, then the mothers can come on the stage, sit down here, or if you need a chair, and we meet Gopi Ben personally. Also, the first timers, as it was told in the morning, announced. First timers, anyone here? First timers? Yeah. So you know that at 5 p.m. You will be going to Manju Ben's office, which is right behind here, and the brother has put up a sign also in case you don't find your way. So please be there before 5. And lastly, those who have borrowed pens, please return them after the session. Thank you very much, and over to Gopi Ben.
Om Shanti. I have to say, I love this topic. When I first heard it, Brahma Baba's Inner Dance, something inside me just went, ooh. Because I really, really am attached to Brahma Baba. I know sometimes Shiv Baba says, don't be attached to this one. But little bit. Over the years, as I've heard, I personally never had a chance to meet Sakar Baba in this life. But I know definitely I've met him in my previous life. And over the years, as I would be listening to the stories from Daddy Ji, Daddy Janki, Daddy Gulzar, Daddy Shantamani, Daddy Manor, all the different daddies sharing their stories of Sakar Baba, I would always feel like I knew this soul. And it would awaken such deep feelings of love and respect and empathy for his journey. Because this is Adi Dev, the first man. There was no one in front of him. This role, this father plays, this soul plays the role of being the father of humanity. So as a father of humanity, does he have to harmonize with anybody? He played the role of a father. And in his journey, there are so many elements of his dharana that I think support the children to become harmonious. Because the harmony is amongst us. It's often between equals. There is competition, there is jealousy, there's comparison. We are the children, but the Father was one. And so he set the example and he set the way. And I think him setting the example demonstrated to all of us how we should be with each other. And even watching the second generation of the daddies and watching the extreme love and respect they had for each other, even though they were distinctly unique in their personalities. Daddy Janki, exuberant, always sharing Baba's Gyan, and Daddy Gulzar, the embodiment of silence. Roop, showing the form and the image of virtues, and yet they were inseparable. There was such deep love and respect between each other. And I think this whole story is a story of true love. True spiritual, eternal love. Because it is that quality of love that liberates us, and it's the key to emotional freedom. And to what extent are you going to make the effort? How far are you going to go to love God? Because in the Sakar form, Baba came to us. Shiv Baba came through Brahma, came to us physically. And then when Sakar Baba, so it was easy. Many souls in the early days going into trance, experiencing, because knowledge wasn't so clear in the early days. So the part of visions, the part of trance, the part of feelings, of feeling like those gopikas that belong to Krishna, was a hallmark of the early days. Now Gyan has increased and become much, much clearer. So, when we talk about harmony, and we talk about who has to harmonize, and when Baba became Avyakt, Sakar Baba became Avyakt, it was in a February 1969, Murli, when Baba said, Baba has become Avyakt to go and serve all the children in the world. Not just you children, but even the stepchildren. Baba has to serve everyone, because the Avyakt part is the part of speeding up service. And so before, Baba, you could meet Baba easily in the corporeal form. Now, in order to meet me, you have to become Avyakt. So those gopikas that fell in love and were like, where are you? Why did you leave us? He says, I haven't left you. I've just changed my form from gross to subtle. I will be with you until the end. And then Daddy Janki would complain, say, no, Baba, don't just put sweet halva in our mouth like that and say that you're going to be with us until the end. Because that's the physical complaint, right? We want to see you, feel you, touch you, talk to you, right? And then Baba said, well, if you want to meet me, then whenever you want to meet me, come into the Avyakt form and meet me. And I remember Daddy describing her experience of, it wasn't easy for them to practice being subtle, because they had to now go to Baba, not through the physical medium, but with the strength of their intellect. Which means the practice of the bodiless stage became even more important. Which means the inner conversation with Baba became even more important. talking to your heart, opening your heart to Baba. The strength of your pure thoughts, a sincere conversation with Baba. You know, how many times do you sit somewhere and you sit with yeah going on in your head? You know, complaints going on in your head. Yeah? But when you switch that and you start to remember Baba and talk to Baba with an honest heart about how you're feeling, then the subtle reaches the subtle. And if it's a true conversation from the heart, Baba gives a response. Because anything that's true and pure reaches Baba. So suddenly the daddies found themselves where the practice of becoming bodiless, staying introvert, creating a heart-to-heart conversation, stabilizing in the avyak stage was so much important. Talking to themselves with love, so that all ordinariness would finish. Yeah? You know, we become so ordinary, and that's when we waste. And they had to look after themselves the way that Sakar Baba used to look after them. Because Sakar Baba demonstrated in the physical love. You know, when Gulzar Dadi would share that in Hyderabad, Sindh was the place where Baba started to get revelations and visions. And shortly after, when Baba started the satsangs, and it attracted so many souls to come and listen to Baba, and there used to be Om chanting, and people would go into trance. And then, as more and more came, Baba started a little baby bhavan, you know, for children. And he created the Om Mandli. He made Mama, Rukmani Dadi, another sister, somebody else, Mama's Lokik's sister also, and then 4 daddies, Dadi Kumarka, Santri Dadi, I think Sandeshi Dadi, and another Dadi. And he willed over all his property to these 8 sisters. And when Baba began the bhavan for the little children, because the mothers would come with the little children, then the daddies would train the mothers how to look after the children. Baba would give them directions. So in the morning, the mothers would wake up the children. They'd already have the toothbrush with the toothpaste set on it already. They'd be woken up to the sounds of music. They'd be taken, freshened, bathed, go for a walk, then freshened up, have breakfast. Then they would meet Baba and Mama. Baba and Mama would design role plays for them. Some would be taught how to create poems and songs. And then Mama and Baba would come in the evening and would watch the role plays of the children and correct them. And so very much the study and yoga with Baba and Mama was very hands-on. It wasn't this kind of teaching and telling in a classroom. You know, so for example, in yoga, Baba would make them sit in a V shape. He'd make them sit in several shapes, sometimes moon shape, sometimes circle. Sometimes once time he made them sit in a V shape. And he would be very stern and say, nobody should touch anybody else when they're sitting. And nobody should move. Nothing should move when you sit in yoga. So what he did was they put a ribbon to each one's forehead, stuck to each one's forehead, and they tied all those ribbons to a central point. Okay? And then the children would have to sit like that. And then if anybody nodded off, guess what happened? The ribbon broke. So then it became clear someone's yoga of intellect has just broken. So Baba was very entertaining like that with the children. But with the little children especially, you know, in the evenings, their beds would be made, Mama and Baba would come round, each one would have like a special netting, mosquito netting. So the mothers would go around preparing the beds, making sure there's no mosquitoes. The children would come and sit in the beds, and Mama and Baba would go around at night and give drishti to each child. The little children would get massaged every day. Baba would call them my little thakurs. Thakur is a little kind of silver idol of Lord Krishna usually. So my little lords, Baba would call them. So Baba, incredibly, these children were way younger than him. And yet Baba held them with so much respect, my living lords, my thakurs. Baba would personally chop up fruit into a pail, and then he would invite each child on his lap and he would feed each child, fruit, cut fruit that he would have cut. There are so many stories when children would come walking from Abu Road, come up the mountain. Baba would be there waiting with a bucket of hot water. He'd wash their feet, and give so much love to the children. And I think when Baba became avyakt, the message that I got from the daddies is we had to learn how to love ourselves the way Baba loved us. Which means, what is the conversation you're having with yourself inside? The effort you're making to have a loving dialogue to change yourself inside. And that's when our efforts begin to change, because one is to be dependent on an external source for love, but another is to become a master of love. And that's what a deity is. And Baba became avyakt so that we could step up and become those master oceans of love. I remember Dadi Janki sharing a story about how when she came, it was in Karachi, and where Mama and them was staying, was in a separate bungalow, and they put Daddy in a place called Baby Bhavan, where all the little children were staying. I think it was either Hyderabad or Karachi, I'm not sure. But in Baby Bhavan, the person who was looking after these children was a very strict old mother, right? And they put Dadi Janki with her, where all the daddies were in a different building. So, she was quite formidable, this Mataji, because, she's having to control 40 kids. It's not a joke, right? And nobody could stay with this mother. And so one evening, Daddy got driven over to where Mama was. And, Mama, Chandramani Daddy, these were all Dadi Janki's school friends. And so, as they were gathering there, Daddy felt a pang of, I'm on my own out there, and all of you are here. And she said to Mama, but why have you put me there? And Mama looked at Daddy and said, but you are Janak, aren't you? And when Mama said that, because the story of Janak Raja, the one who was the destroyer of attachment, the bodiless trustee in Bhakti, and it touched Daddy so deeply that she went back to Baby Bhavan and she made that mother her friend. Because that mother was an uneducated mother, so she started reading her the Murli, and she said in 1 month's time that mother was giving her so much love. They were on such good terms, and that mother had transformed so much. And so this whole ability in our life to push love back into our relationship, to win people's hearts, to receive blessings from the hearts of others. This is the stepping stone towards harmony and unity. This is what enables us to finally become one and reveal the one. I have to say, though, that Baba's story in Brahma Baba's story. It was a story of true love, faith, and radical acceptance. Imagine in Hyderabad, Baba had his own house, very well known, even though his business was in Calcutta, on the west side of India. Baba became very well known in this Sindhi community. And when the satsangs began, and of course it drew many women and children, it also started antagonizing the community. Because many of the sisters started asking for celibacy. And of course the brothers were not too happy about that. And so of course there was an anti-Om Mandali rising group created. There was picketing where the children were targeted often. And many sisters who had come to Baba, their families had created court cases, right? Got taken to court. Mama herself went to court. And it was a bittersweet experience in court, because sometimes, the cases won in the favor of the women. Sometimes it didn't. And at times the court ruled that those over 18 could stay in the yajna, but those who were under 18 had to go back home. So these were bittersweet experiences they had to face. And yet everything Baba accepted. Even though they were defamed, they were accused, Baba's power of detached observation was immense, even at that time. Because the feeling that there's another power who's responsible here for the protection of his children. And then they moved to Karachi, because the problems were getting more in Hyderabad. And in Karachi, Baba rented houses. He sold his house in Hyderabad and rented houses in Karachi. And so according to the law that had been said, they couldn't all stay together as a community. So Baba would stay somewhere different, Mama and the daddies would stay somewhere different. And so they were all split up. And it was during that time they had the 14 years of tapasya. And then, of course, partition happened. And when partition happened, even though the government of the newly formed Pakistan, the ministers had said to Baba, you stay amongst us, you're a politician. But the relatives of the surrendered sisters who were living in India said, no, come back to India. And there was a big demand pulling these surrendered sisters out of Pakistan into India. Because at that time when Pakistan was created, it was very clear this was the land for the Muslims. And so a lot of Indians were asked to go back, move and shift, even though that was their land. They grew up there. And in particular, there was one particular person, Dada Mulchand, Chacha Mulchand, who was Didi Manmohini's uncle. He then said to Baba, I will cover the expenses of bringing you from Pakistan to India. So it meant by boat they travelled from the port of Karachi to Oka, and then by train to Abu, and then from the train into Abu, up the mountain to Abu. And on the basis of that, Baba made the arrangements for all the children. Yeah, this is moving a few hundred children, right? This is not a small thing. Moving a few hundred children from one city to another country. And yet Baba, and at that time I remember Daddy saying, Baba made them dig a hole, because they couldn't carry everything, and put all their notebooks in there. Everything they'd studied and written and whatever up until now. And some of them would complain and say, but Baba, these are treasures. Why should he said, and then he would tease them. He said, no, if you pack them now, then you'll find them on the path of bhakti. Right? So they left quite a lot of stuff behind. And when they arrived in Abu, of course, and in India, and then Chacha Mulchand, this is Didi Manmohini's uncle, said, I was just fooling you. I wasn't going to pay for your expenses. Baba had to face that. Imagine if somebody offers you to take you from one place to another. You make all the arrangements and the expenses, and then the person who's offered to give you the expenses doesn't. How would you feel? And that was something Baba had to accept. In the early days when Baba, in Hyderabad, when Baba started to get these visions, he had a vision of Vishnu, he had a vision of Satyug, and he had a vision of destruction. And he developed such deep disinterest inside that he told his business partner in Calcutta, I'm ready to wind up the business. In between, he'd gone to Benares, and you know the story. He'd gone to Benares out of this disinterest because he didn't understand what was happening to him. And he would just sit in this apartment, loaned to him by a friend, and he would just draw circles on the wall. There was something clearly shifting and moving inside him. And it took a while before Baba started to understand this is a separate energy, a higher energy that's doing its work, a higher being, not energy, a higher being doing its work. So it wasn't a time of complete clarity that this is Shiv Baba and this is what he's come to do. It wasn't as clear cut as that. But Baba staying very true to his feelings, and of course this inspiring immense disinterest in Baba, where to the extent he told his business partner, okay, you take care of the business. And the business partner said, yes, but, I'm not going to be in the business anymore, so you can, whatever you want to keep, whatever you want to give me, you give me, whatever you want to keep, you keep. So the business partner, Sairam was his name, said, but I don't even know how to discern a diamond. I don't know how to sell diamonds, because this was their trade in Calcutta. Baba was a diamond merchant, and he was a salesman. And he said, so here's what we're going to do. Sairam said, I'm going to keep all the cash in the bank, and you can keep whatever diamonds and jewelry and gold that is. Now, of course, there was more cash, the value in terms of monetary value, the cash was way more than, the diamond value and the gold and the jewelry left behind. So in one sense, you could say he cheated Baba. It wasn't a fair deal to just give Baba all the jewelry and the diamonds. But look at drama. Baba didn't fight. Baba accepted. Okay. All the jewels, the diamonds, everything came to Baba. And Baba used that to help the yagya to grow. He would get Dada Vishwakishore to go and sell a diamond at a time. And what was amazing was, of course, as time goes on, the value of those diamonds increased. Right? The monetary value increased. So it was based on that wealth that Baba was able to create and sustain the yagya. But again, acceptance. Accept we have to move. Accept coming here, accept being deceived. And even when they arrived in Abu and they were in Brij Koti, within a year or couple of years, the government sent a notice to say all the lands, because all of these kotis, these cottages or places, used to be owned by kings. And whatever used to be the property of kings then went to the government when the government was formed. And so they got a notice when they arrived into Brij Koti to say, evacuate, we want to use this cottage for the chief minister. Right? Again, you're moving 250, something like that, people. Again, Baba's stability and acceptance. And I remember Ramesh Bhai sharing this story. It was very powerful, where Dada Vishwakishore had asked for 2-month extensions. with the governor of Rajasthan or the chief minister of Rajasthan at the time, 2-month extensions. And after a few months had passed by, they went again to see the chief minister to ask for another 2 months. And the chief minister said, look, it's the 30th of December, you're supposed to evacuate on the 31st. And enough is enough, you've had enough extensions, we need this property. And if you're not going to evacuate by tomorrow, I'm going to call the collector of the district. So Dada Vishwakishore went back to Baba and told Baba this. Baba went into silence and he remembered one of the children in Patna, who was a businessman, who was a close friend to the president of India at that time, Rajendra Prasad. And he said to Dada Vishwakishore, call that child, tell him to come to Delhi and to speak to the president. And literally, immediately, Dada Vishwakishore called him. He came from Patna, came to Delhi overnight, 31st morning. They went to the president's house to meet him. And of course, he was a childhood friend of the president. But when they arrived at the presidential house, they meet the PA. And so the PA says, what do you think this is? This is the president. You can't just come without an appointment and expect to meet him. And this brother said, but I've known him since childhood. And the PA said, yes, but that childhood friend is now the president of India. You need an appointment. So Dada Vishwakishore said, let's just sit here for a few minutes. And they both sat down in the waiting area. And according to drama, a few moments later, the president was walking through going to breakfast and he saw his friend and he said, what are you doing here? And the friend said, your PA won't let me in. And so then he invited them for breakfast. And then his friend said, I'm not going to have breakfast until you do this one thing for me. Because they were like childhood friends. And he said, what? He said, well, where we are and our Baba is staying in Bridgekoti, we need a 2-month extension to be able to stay there. And the chief minister isn't providing it for us. Can you write us a letter affording us another 2-month extension? And he said, done. And it was a letter issued under his name. And then they had breakfast. And then they came back and there must have been just minutes or half an hour, 15 minutes left before the office of the chief minister was going to close. And they arrived in on the 31st and the chief minister said, have you evacuated yet? And they said, no, but we've brought a letter from a friend for you to read. And he said, I'm not going to read any letter from your friend. No friend can convince me now. I'm going to call the collector. And even if God comes, I won't listen to him. And Dada Vishwakishore said, but God wouldn't come down for a petty matter like this. And God wouldn't come down to speak to you like this. But this friend will. He said, please at least read this letter. So when they gave him the letter and he saw the seal, the presidential seal, he thought, oh, he opened the letter and it was a directive from the president. So he had to oblige. He had to give them another 2 months. So these are moments where, we hear about Baba, but we also, Baba's dharana, but the stories reflect the incredible amount of stability and acceptance Baba handled every scene of the drama with. Baba's wealth, of course, was all used up in the move to Abu. And there are varying stories on the beggary period in 1950 when they moved. But Ramesh Bhai once asked Baba, how long did the beggary period actually last? And Baba said 6 hours. Of course, there must have been limited supplies before then, but the actual beggary period where you have nothing, 6 hours. And Baba had shared the story that one morning he got up and at breakfast came down and was just given watery dal and roti. So he said to Boli Dadi, Is this for breakfast? Have the children eaten breakfast? And she was quiet. And Baba knew nobody had eaten that morning. And at 10 o'clock, the post would come. So he said to Vishwakishore Dada, go and open the post. And in the post was an unmarked envelope. Well, it was marked to him, but no return address. And in it was 200 rupees. And then he said to Vishwakishore, he said, go and buy sabji, dal, chawal, everything, and feed the children lunch. And to this day, they didn't know where that came from. But so many, many stories like this, where Baba didn't get upset, Baba didn't get into a pickle, what's going to happen, how's it going to happen, how are we going to manage this? Baba didn't generate any thoughts, but accepted the scene. Tolerated the abuse, tolerated the defamation, accepted it, accepted the unfairness of his business partner, accepted the fact that they had to move even though they made best efforts, right? And then they went to Bharatpur Kota house, and from there then they moved to Pandav Bhavan, right? So where Pandav Bhavan is right now. And Pandav Bhavan, of course, it was just stables, a few rooms, a very small house, ordinary house, and stables for horses. And so Shilindra Dadi would say, Baba, where have you brought us? So Karachi was by the sea, the ocean. And here in the mountains, freezing cold, no facilities. So you can imagine many even left Baba in this transition. The very children he had sustained and nourished and surrendered his life to, sacrifice to, even left Baba. So there's a foundation that comes before us. We sit here today and we eat from the yajna. But whose sacrifice created the yajna? It was Brahma's sacrifice, the first sacrifice that created the yajna. His mind, his body, his wealth. And anybody who sacrifices in that way becomes a master Brahma. And Brahma Baba would tell the children, you have to adopt 3 forms every day. Brahma, Vishnu, Shankar. At the beginning of the day, create your world as Master Brahma. Sustain yourself in the day as Vishnu, and at night be Shankar and destroy everything. And then go to sleep. So this was etched in the chit of the children deep inside. So the father's sacrifice, love, faith allowed the children to grow. When up until when you're about 18, you're a bit laxy-daisy in your life. You can live your life how you want because mum and dad are there, right? Then when you go out into the real world and have to earn your own income, it's a different story. And mum and dad are not there to dish out and pocket money, etc., etc. It's a different sense of responsibility. And so harmonizing is to give the proof of love. And one of the first steps that I know for myself, and especially the preparation to become loose and easy in your sanskars and nature, so that your own sanskars and nature aren't a tight skin, is the practice of being a detached observer. You will see in the journal a beautiful story from Sister Mohini, where she shares of how she saw that Baba observed everything. He noticed everything, but he didn't allow things to come inside. Yes, sometimes we observe, but we note things down. Oh, this one's like this, and this one's like that, and that one's like the other. But Baba never allowed his feelings to change inside. And so if we're going to be playing a harmony dance at any level, it's so important inside to have a practice that allows me to stay relaxed, allows my mind and intellect, my mind to stay relaxed with Baba, and my intellect to stay alert and surrendered and concentrated. And that's the strength of your intellect. It is the practice of yoga again and again, introversion again and again. And then the avyakt stage, and the foundation of the avyakt stage is created by sustaining a heart-to-heart conversation with Baba. You know, too often we carry our own burdens when we don't need to. Yeah? How many problems you kind of hold on and think, oh, I have to solve it. And Baba's going, let it go. Tera so, mera so, tera. Yeah? Just keep Baba, one Baba and none other. And especially at the beginning of the day, check your subconscious. Is there anything that's intruding into your conscious mind from your subconscious at the beginning of the day? That perhaps is a little worry, a little concern. So at the beginning of the day, give that to Baba. Because whatever it is that we hold on to keeps our old sanskars alive. And actually, whatever it is we hold on to keeps us in a dilemma. It keeps us split. Yeah? When you're worrying, do you experience being whole inside? No. So any kind of subtle worry or concern creates a condition inside the soul of being in a dilemma. And then it's very difficult to have yoga. You know, you have your intention on one side. Yes, I love Baba, but I'm in tension. And the other factor in harmonization for me has been to really make my complete stage my best friend. Because when you know and you connect with what you're becoming, the beauty and the purity of what you're becoming, then you will never gossip or defame anyone. If you know you're becoming a deity, will you talk badly about somebody else? Will you? No. It's when we forget our aim that these habits creep in. And I remember Baba very clearly saying in one Murli, it's when you defame someone that you enter a personal dilemma. Because you have done something against your best friend. You've done something that's betrayed your best friend. And your best friend is sitting right inside. So the first sense of harmony has to be created with this friend. Don't try and work it out with somebody else outside. Because that's like a band-aid. You know, out of your own attachment, or you want to be seen to be good, you want to be liked, you don't want to be excluded. For some reason, out of ego and attachment, you try and make efforts to patch it up with someone. But actually, the first person you have to patch it up with is your complete stage. When that part of you that is complete, a divine, non-violent deity, faces you and says, why did you do this? I mean, they won't even ask you the question. They'll just give you drishti and you'll realize. Because this is the place where distress begins. We haven't made ourselves our own friends. We're still hoping somebody outside will rescue us. And the foundation of harmony begins with this deep, subtle friendship with my complete stage. And not just checking, is this what Baba would want done? But is this what my best friend would want to do as well? And when you have a best friend, you do everything with them. You eat with them, you drink with them, you go out with them, you socialize with them, you share everything with them. There's no gap between you and your best friend. So why is there a gap between you and your complete stage? So just take a moment now and just think about your relationship with your complete stage. What is it going to take for you to build a strong bond with your complete stage? What is it going to take for you to trust your complete stage? And what is your complete stage trying to tell you now? So the first level of acceptance begins here. A lot of people talk about, accepting scenes of the drama, accepting people, but that's way down the line. If you haven't accepted this as a friend and started the integration inside, how are you showing up in your relationships with others? You're going to be showing up with an expectation. You're going to be showing up with an attraction. You're going to be showing up with an attachment because you're not integrated inside. So I think this, for me, this was very clear in listening to the stories of Baba. Baba accepted he was Vishnu. Baba accepted that part of him that was complete, which allowed him to accept each moment in the drama. All three are connected. Accepting God, accepting drama, and accepting your complete stage. And when there's a lack of acceptance at any one of these three, it's filled with body consciousness. You know how when we hear somebody's left the body, some people react. And when you look at your reaction, it's just your own body consciousness because of your fear of death. Or perhaps your attachment to that person. That doesn't allow you to accept that scene in the drama where you need to make a big deal about it. So ultimately, when we look at the flow of things, the lack of acceptance is because inside I haven't given myself that time to accept, first of all, that part of me that is complete and pure. You know, Baba's practice from the beginning, apart from holding court with his own faculties, mind, intellect and sanskars, Baba had a strong attention on his inner world. Baba also used to write. And Baba used to write and fill notebooks of pages. I am a soul. Jashoda is a soul. Narayan is a soul. He had 2 sons and three daughters. So-and-so is a soul. This one is a soul. Really ingraining the consciousness and awareness of each other as souls. Himself as a soul with the soul. Because only when this portal opens up can you then accept your highest form of purity. You can't accept your highest form of purity when you're body conscious. Because in body consciousness, you got too much baggage. Guilt, shame, habits of looking back, habits of repeating the past, revising the past. And so Brahma Baba's practice, especially towards the end, he would disappear inside, become the point. He spoke very, very little. And he would encourage the children. He would form a group and he would say, you discuss, Baba will come afterwards. So Baba began and pushed the children before he left to work together and to create one thought, one feeling and one direction. And that's why even Avyakt Bapdada said, the gathering is important. Don't think you can become Bap Saman without the gathering. Because the harmonization of sanskars, if you don't have a gathering, where are you going to practice it? At home? On a mobile phone? On a laptop? The effort to come into the gathering is where you gain the marks. And I know that, with COVID and with everything that's happened, things have become convenient. So effort is not effort, it's convenience now. And that's why souls are experiencing a sense of flatness inside. There's no juice enough anymore. Because if you spend all day on your own looking at a mobile phone and a screen, there's no live interaction happening, right? There's no living soul in front of you. So how are you generating power? Where are you practicing virtue? I remember Daddy Janki once telling me, we were having this discussion on, disagreements in the gathering, in the family. And she said, the family's just namesake. It's a practice ground for us to practice our divine sanskars and qualities. So you have to become available, step into the practice ground, to see to what extent have you accumulated the power of humility. To see to what extent your love is working for you as tolerance. To see to what extent you've accumulated peace where you can remain patient with someone. Because it's all of this that allows Baba's good wishes and energy to flow. When we arrive in the gathering and we share with each other, it allows Baba to reach, to do his work. And we can start that tuning fork. Everybody's tuning fork can start to tune in the same direction. And that's what's going to reveal Baba. So building the capacity for harmony requires love, faith, and sacrifice. And all of this produces radical acceptance. I remember a story where I think Daddy had shared this story, and Baba would often take the children walking on the mountaintop where there's Mama's Rock. I don't know if you've been there. And one time all the children were sitting, and Baba then said, he used to joke with the children, and he said, okay, here's the edge of the rock. Baba's asking, which child is going to go and jump? If Baba were to tell you to go and jump now, which child would go and jump? Everybody was like, what? And then Didi Manmani raised her hand. And Baba said, pass. Why did you raise your hand? And she cheekily said to Baba, because I know a father would never ask his child to go and jump over the edge of a cliff. She had that much faith. So Baba would test the children's faith in between. Do you not believe that Baba can't hear what's in your heart and mind? You belong to him. The moment you recognized Baba, the moment an exclusive channel opened up just between you and Baba, which means every thought, feeling, Baba can see and feel and hear. And it's because Baba can't tolerate the pain and the sorrow of the children that he came down. And he speaks the Murli, churns, and you saw Sakar Baba making those efforts every day, waking up at 2, 3 in the morning every day, being concerned that the children should get fresh food. There were many stories where one of the efforts of Sakar Baba was to send Sakash to those who were unwell. And Baba would often stay up all night and send Sakash to a particular child who wasn't well. So all of these practices build a capacity. You can't just take a point of knowledge and think you're just with knowledge you can create a spiritual relationship with someone. First you have to build a capacity inside to practice that, to generate the love, to go beyond the negativity, the limitations, to keep your heart big, to stay in the unlimited. And when that is practiced, then when you come in the gathering, things can flow.
शिव पिता को अब याद करो, मुक्ति धाम तुम्हें जाना है। अपने सुकर्मों के बल पर ही सतयुग में तुमको आना है। शिव पिता को अब याद करो। विकराल विनाश खड़ा आगे। अब हम सबका शिव पिता ने बतलाया है। शिव पिता को अब याद करो। पांडव शिव शक्ति सेना की रणभेरी अब फिर बजती है। शिव बाबा के ज्ञान से फिर माया को मार भगाना है। शिव पिता को अब याद करो, सतयुग में तुमको आना है। शिव पिता को अब याद करो, मुक्ति धाम तुम्हें जाना है। अपने सुकर्मों के बल पर ही सतयुग में अब तुम्हें आना है।
धाम में तुम्हें
सतयुग में अब तुम्हें आना है।
धाम में तुम्हें जाना है।
The crux of everything comes down to one thing. How far are you going to go to love Baba? That's what it boils down to. So many times when people come into the gathering, they say, oh, I love Baba, I'm better off on my own. These people are a bit complicated. But if you really love Baba, then you will also be able to stay with Baba's creation. Both are connected. And so the deep individual effort that needs to happen for us to become avyakt, stay close to Baba, that conscientious effort is what sustains constant love. How far are you going to go in this pilgrimage of love? Yes, we love, but love means a stretch. You know, when you love someone, you'll go to the ends of the earth for them. So he's just asking us to go to the subtle region for him. And when that happens, that shift from gross to subtle happens, our ability to become loving and detached increases enormously. And that's what we experienced from the daddies. The loving and detached, because of their internal efforts of bodilessness, of becoming avyakt, that they could embrace such a variety of us. We were young, we were of different backgrounds, different cultures, and yet the feeling, these are Baba's children. No judgment. Openness for growth. So I'm going to stop here because time is up. And I could continue for another half an hour at least, but time is up. But I hope that's given you a little bit of a practical window into the subject. Are there any questions? Anybody would like to share anything? Yes. Just a minute. Would you be able to just ask the question on the mic so that everybody online can hear?
Om Shanti. So I was just wondering, I am not so fortunate to get that sustenance from neither Brahma Baba or Dadi Janki or other dadis. I never had that fortune to be with them. And at the same time, I'm the only one in my Laukik family who is in Gyan. And we deal with people who are not in Gyan almost all the time. So how do we easily establish a harmony while maintaining our own, sthiti as Baba's child? Stage, yeah, exactly. And also, respond in a way that they won't feel hurt, because I don't want to say, okay, I'm a BK, I will not eat this, I won't go anywhere with you, or, there are few rules that we observe, how can we live in harmony in a family where there are no BK, or in the world where we deal with, majority of the time.
I think first of all, that's what's very important, is to establish a channel of love with Baba. You can't do anything else if you don't feel loved. And not just loved once or twice. There's a strong bond. You are making efforts that's keeping the juice coming. Right? So whatever you need to do to establish that bond of love and the quality of effort you have to make to know that this bond of love is what is going to help me in harmonizing, in balance, this is the first priority. After that, it's negotiation and communication. Everything is a negotiation. Now, in Sakar Baba's days, of course, Sakar Baba would give permission because every person's circumstance and karmic bondage is unique. So, for example, with Ramesh Bhai, Baba said to him, he owned his own business. You can't drink a cup of tea anywhere. But with Brijmohan Bhai, he gave permission because Brijmohan Bhai was a government servant and would get posted into different places. So Baba gave him permission to have a cup of tea outside. Right? So in terms of Srimat and taking Srimat, it's good to go to an instrument who knows your story and your journey and to take some customized Srimat for that. But I wouldn't call myself unfortunate, because what is sustenance? Sustenance isn't just physical proximity to somebody or something. Sustenance is Baba's Murli. That Shiv Baba came down just to speak the knowledge, to give us everything he has inside, the full package. And you have the Murli in your hands today. How can you say you're not fortunate? When you have God's bhavna, God's intent, God's directions, everything in your hands. So that sense of feeling fortunate and feeling loved is the first foundation for my stage. You know, when you neglect yourself, if you're careless, you're lazy, or you don't give importance to the maryadas, it's a form of self-neglect. And then you feel pulled. You'll feel pulled by people's expectations and demands. You won't be able to negotiate lovingly. And the power of yoga won't work for you. There are so many stories where, souls have been in compromising situations in their families. One particular couple, they were a Sindhi couple, and whenever their families would get together, it would be a big meat affair. And of course, they're both vegetarian, right? And it was okay for the husband to say, because he had a condition, for the husband to say, I can't eat all this, I have to stick to this. But the wife, and one time she went into the bathroom as an excuse, and she went into the bathroom and she just talked to Baba in the bathroom. She said, Baba, keep my honor. I don't want to break my maryada. So she just internally had such a pucker thing. She came out, and in the conversation that ensued, her husband had ordered the same food that he ordered for himself for her. And he'd explained to the senior member of the family, oh no, she'll just eat my diet, we're just the same. And because he spoke for her, she never had to say anything. So there are so many moments that if you really want to stay true to that relationship with Baba, Baba's love is unlimited, but it's not unconditional. There are conditions to receiving love. Honesty is one of them. Sincerity of effort is another. Showing up, having yoga, studying, all of these are aspects. And they create the right conditions to help us to realize and recognize our purity. Right? And then everything else is negotiation. There was one mother that came to me, I think it was somewhere in Canada, we were touring, and she said, my husband, he's asking me to go to a wedding in India and I don't really want to go, and he's like, and I'm saying, you go, I'll stay here, and he says, if you don't come, I won't go either. And I said, and she said, I wish he would just go by himself. And I said, look, you signed the contract. You signed the contract to get married, right? So you have to negotiate. If that makes him happy, go. Do what you have to do, but go. Don't just be selfish and pull the blanket your way and say, oh, I'm going to do my own thing and do the other thing. Create some sense of harmony because you've signed a contract to be his wife. So whatever contract you've signed with somebody, you have to fulfill the responsibility of that contract. But lovingly, your needs can be negotiated. Yeah, it's up to you to negotiate those needs. The problem is that when you don't feel enough love, you're pulled by attachment. And that's when you become like a devotee, subservience. Because your stage, you haven't given enough time to strengthen your stage. Right? You're trying to keep your foot in two boats. And Baba's just saying, quietly strengthen your stage, fill yourself with Baba's love, and then negotiate with love. And souls will feel it. Souls will feel Baba's love. Right? Because the story of any kind of transformation is about faith and love. And when these two things are weak, Maya can feel it and smell it, and she'll come straight after you. She'll go for that one. He's a bit kacha pakka, you know.
Okay.
Okay?
So, no, because we still have some things after this. So, that was an amazing session. I wouldn't call it a session, actually. I would call it amazing connection with Brahma Baba. We have read about him, we've heard about him, many things, but I think this was very different. And I think that now, if we can take a minute, we'll ask the brother to play some soft music. And whatever we have heard from Sister Gopi, just feel inside connecting to Brahma Baba with all those qualities that we have heard, the character that she has sort of displayed in front of us. Let us, this 1 minute, be our time to strengthen that, like a new relationship with Brahma Baba. Can we do that now for just a minute? Yeah, so brother could play some soft music and we could have some, just for a minute, try to go over all the things that Sister has told us and connect deeply.